Facebook land, all of Gaye's people on Facebook, and God knows where she's been, and all my people on Facebook. Welcome. This is my 235th episode of interviewing.
Woo!
Yeah, man. And I don't even do drugs. Just think if I did drugs. Yeah, today we have the amazing Gaye Lirot from New York City. You can see her on YouTube. She has false positive, P-O-D-S-itive. That's her YouTube. And on there, she does this thing called What's My Line? You got to find out what that's about today. And every Wednesday, and some Sundays in the past, when the pandemic is over, Wednesdays, she's hosting, co-hosting, producing, whatever, with Comic Strip Live's Gladys Simon.
Yay, Gladys!
The virtual show from Comic Strip Live on Zoom, on Facebook. Oh, Lord Almighty. Hi, Gaye.
Linda! Hello, Linda! Good to see you.
So great to see you, Gaye.
Yeah. And you're in Las Vegas?
I am. I'm right on the Strip.
Woo! Good for you.
And I have my clothes on. I didn't strip yet.
You're surrounded by strips. I met you at the comic strip, and now you live near the Vegas Strip, and you like to strip. You're surrounded by strips everywhere you go.
That's a good one. Can I have that line?
It's yours. It's yours.
Thank you. What the hell? You are doing everything at Comic Strip Live with my mentor, my hero, Gladys Simon. How's it feel to be at the level where you're at doing all what you're doing?
Well, I met Gladys back in 1993, and it was just after Cold Waters, and we had begun at Hamburger Harrys in Times Square. So, no, it feels good. Like, to me, comedy is a release. I'm now in my life, I'm ready to leave my real job, which is being a film producer, and just be a comedian and just, make money being a comedian or an actress or a voiceover artist, not so much be in production. So Gladys gives me the opportunity to work it out, and then hopefully I'll take it somewhere to another level.
Yeah, and you're with Broadway Video doing producing at Broadway Video.
Well, I used to work at Broadway Video. I haven't worked there since like 2008, but I work all over producing videos. I went freelance, but I did work there.
And you have a couple big ones that are out there that I found on your bio.
Oh, yeah. I've done some big commercials. I did last year, I produced a big one with Gigi Hadid for Sunglass Hut. So I love Gigi. She's a great girl. She's pregnant now.
From the sunglasses? It didn't block that?
She's pregnant with somebody's baby. I don't know who it is. I know Orlando Bloom is Katy Perry's baby daddy, but I'm not sure who Gigi Hadid's baby. Oh, no, I do know. It's the guy that split off. His name's Zalik. It's the guy that split off from that band that Harry Styles was in, those British kids.
Yeah.
I don't know, Linda. I've been living in this apartment for 30 years. I don't know a lot of popular shit.
It's hard to keep us woke.
I know. I know. Really and I live here. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You live here.
I live here with a veteran. I know you're a veteran, and I live here with an Army veteran.
Yay! Woo!
Yes. We met in the bar underneath the house. He came upstairs to smoke a joint. He's never left. 21 years. 21 years the guy's been here, same joint.
Oh my gosh. So your husband was military. What branch was he in? Army?
Army.
Yeah. What did he do in the Army?
He was a medic, and he was attached to a ballistic missile unit. It was back in the 80s, when everybody knew 3 languages and the people were not as like into the Star Wars kind of stuff.
Yes. So you at times you've been able to be a caregiver for him when he's wrestling with his health because of the military.
Well, he unfortunately he had a heart episode 6 years ago now, 2014, and now he has the pacemaker and a defibrillator inside of him. So it's very convenient that we live on First Avenue, kind of down the street from the VA. I know you did a comedy day at the VA, but yeah, I mean, I've definitely been a caregiver for him. It bummed me out, but it turns out his brother also had a heart episode at 49. So these kids, they just there's some kind of date due button on their heart. So just like on George Saltz's penis, let's give a shout out to George Saltz's penis. Used before 99.95. Give a shout out to George. We know a lot of the same comedians.
Yeah, man, we got to watch our hearts. So
no, I know.
And you and I both have big hearts for the military and the veterans. So, and you've been doing comedy like you alluded to a minute ago since the Hamburger Harry days. So people, that means 30 years, does it not?
27 years.
Yeah, that's what I said. 27.
It is, but it's funny because back in that room, there really was Jim Gaffigan and there really was Tom Shalhoub and there really were these comedians that became something. That guy, Adam Hunter, that works with Nikki and runs that place. Like they were literally all there. And back then we had to pay $5 and Gladys would have 40 comedians. It would start at 8:00 at night and we would go to 12:30. And even back then I would light the candles and help Bob. I was always attached to Bob, Gladys's paramour that passed on. But, what did it get me? It got me giving you an interview in the back of my room in 2020, and the world is my oyster. That's what hanging out at Hamburger Harry's got me.
Well, I'll tell you, the world's your oyster, and you don't clam up. Yeah. Sorry, had to throw in a pun.
I loved it. At least you didn't say crab up or something. It was good.
What's been in the works for you during the pandemic to stay positive and stay moving forward with your comedy?
It's funny. I feel as though I've never been busier on projects for myself. Every day this week, because of your interview, I have a Zoom call every day this week. And now you're my third interview. So people are starting to get to know me as a person. And then when we do the Gladys show, we're on this coming week will be our 13th show. And to try to wrangle 20 comedians and their schedules and get everybody interested. And, Gene Kim also runs it too. Gene does much more work than I do. I'm more of a figurehead. Gladys and I are more figureheads and Gene kind of does the grunt work, but it's nice. And that has kept us together. And it's funny because I went to Catholic U in Washington, D.C. I make a joke that all the guys I dated are gay or priests or both, but nothing like that. But we've had an ongoing comedy happy hour since the very first week. Like when everything shut down that Monday, March 16th, we started this on that Friday, and they taught me how to use Zoom. And then from that, we do our podcast on Zoom. We do that. What's my line? Thank you for the shout outs. False positive, Linda. So yeah, and I edit the What's My Line. So I'm busy. We do the podcast on Monday. We do the prep call with Gladys Tuesday. Wednesday, we do Gladys. Thursday, we do What's My Line. Friday, I do the happy hour call. And then Saturday, you. And then tomorrow, I'm going to call with some other people.
Wonderful. Yeah, Debbie.
So I've been very good.
What?
I've been very good. I've been feeling very creative. It's funny, like, as much as it affected me, and we saw a lot of people die, and I live around the corner from a funeral home, and there was the refrigerated truck, and there were tons of homeless people, and now it's like, it's week 13, and everybody, I just went to the store this morning, and they stole everything out of this guy's bike shop. Like in the East Village where I live, we got very badly hurt with the looters. So I stand in peace with Dr. Fauci and keeping ourselves away and keeping ourselves better. And I want racism to go away, but it's not going to go away in a day. And I think that the protesting might give us another surge in the disease. But I want everybody to stay positive. I see a lot of destruction in my neighborhood that hurts me. And I think that, we should be more positive and we should be fair to everybody.
Yes. Can we you and I should sit down and find a way to get the KKK to rally so that they die off.
We could do it. Yeah. Well, they just endorsed Donald Trump. So, they're traveling with a mighty crowd.
Oh, my Lord Almighty. Geez, Louise, this is not the America that I contracted to be around.
None of us did at all. I mean, but I don't want to talk about politics because we're here to talk about sex. So I don't, or at least comedy. But the comedy, I mean, I've been in comedy long enough because when I was coming up in 1993, that's when that was Roseanne and Grace Under Fire, and everybody wanted to have their TV show out of comedy. And then the networks were saturated with stand-up shows and everybody got their show. And then all of a sudden comedy kind of died off. And in some ways, I'm amazed. You know, you and I both know we did the open mic at Gladys's or at the comic strip. Maybe we would get 25 to 40 people. Last week on the Zoom call, we had 76 people tune in because it's in your house. I mean, as much as people need to learn their Zoom etiquette and, you know, don't eat Rice Krispies in front of your microphone while everybody's telling jokes, but it's such an avenue out, you know? So maybe it is a forward thinking way, but all of us want to get back on stage. We all want to feel the mic and the people.
Yes. It makes it hard because some of us have finally gotten to the level where we can read a room and now we can't even see the room.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's funny. That's a very apt, you know, that's very apropos. You saw the right thing. And I like the letter that Brian McFadden wrote, like, stand up, how much I miss you. Like, we complain about it and we don't want to do it and it sucks. Nobody laughs. And then when it's not there, it just reminds me of the Melanie song, you know, you pave paradise, put up a parking lot. You don't know what you've got till it's gone. Wow. And when it was gone, we all missed it. So I don't want to miss it. You know, I watched the World Trade Centers fall down. I live on First Avenue and 3rd Street. And it was funny because, you know, it was the commotion and we heard the airplanes, and I wanted to go down to get money and beer, you know, so I could be safe in my apartment. And the elevator went up and I was like, oh, I'm going to heaven. But I went to the roof and then, you know, we all actually physically saw the building fall down. We saw the people jumping off. You know, I've seen New York go through so much stuff, but I never thought I'd see the guy's bike store get everything ripped off out of it at 2:00 in the morning. Or
Who's going to be the spokesperson now?
I don't know.
Get it?
I get. I don't know. That's funny. I don't know who he's going to be. Maybe we'll have to get a pedal bike. True.
Oh my gosh. So what are when did you get into comedy? What made you? Who told you were funny? When?
I grew up funny. I think I grew up funny. I think that growing up with the name Gaye may have made me funny. I grew up, you know, when Anita Bryant, I'm very old. I kept my baby fat, so I look much younger than I am. But no, I was always funny. I remember having a bunk bed. You remember John Cameron Swayze, and he had that Timex watch. And I remember hanging off the safety bar of my bunk bed. I must have been 6 or 7, and doing the John Cameron Swayze commercial from the top of the mountain. It takes a licking and keeps on ticking. You know, so even back then I thought I was funny. And then people started to recognize it. And then I got a beer bong, and the rest is history. Once I got that beer bong and started social drinking and the comedy, there was nothing that could stop me.
Oh my gosh. How young were you when you first went on stage? 20. Oh, that would make me know your age. Never mind.
Oh,
so
no.
You've been doing comedy 27 years.
Yeah. And I met Gladys when I was 23. I'm 56. A woman, you have to be, that's what my Turkish friend is like. Never be afraid of a woman who tells her age. Be afraid of a woman who does not.
Nice.
No, my hair's all gray. I'm all gray. I'm 56. I kept my cherubicness, but on the inside, I'm 109.
I just turned 69.
Woo, that's a great year.
Yeah. I went on stage and I said, I just turned 69. And then I just paused and I said, and I have no idea what to do for my birthday.
And everybody's like, 69.
I forgot. Yeah. So talk to me about being able to see all the people get mentored at Comic Strip Live, because that's a huge, I mean, that place is like.
It's huge. And Gladys is huge. I mean, the place is live. I mean, Gladys took over for Lucian. It's funny because I was in comedy from 1993 to 2006. And I didn't make it. And I had a boyfriend, like the guy was living with me, and it was hard to go to the clubs, and I had a job. So I quit comedy from 2006 until 2013. And it was Gladys that brought me back, you know, but I've seen in the beginning room, the people that came out of the Hamburger Harrys room that Gladys mentored, or at least used that stage as a jumping off point, were Zach Galifianakis, that kid Miles, that's the executive producer of the Jimmy Fallon show. A woman named Andrea Rosen that went on to be a big comedic actress. That guy, Adam Hunter, Marina Franklin, you know, and Grace. I think that the woman, I can't remember her last name, but that Southern chick, Grace, used to be at Gladys's or was at Coldwater's before I was. And there's all these people that were at Coldwater's that became big, powerful writers. All the guys that were at Hamburger Harrys with me came out. They became Adam Sulkin, John Viner, Julia Sharp. They all wrote with, they write Family Guy, you know, so they became these giant stars, and we all knew them in the beginning of the 90s. So, I mean, I always lived on First Avenue and East 3rd Street, and the Hamburger Harry's was at 145 West 45th. That was my joke. Even if you're dyslexic, you have half a chance of showing up. So, but I remember sometimes I would perform, like Gladys always made us bark and try to get the room going and do all that. But I remember a couple of times I would just walk home from Times Square to my house in the East Village. And back then it wasn't so nice in the early 90s because I would be so pumped for my performance, you know? And yeah, but you know, it was a good place. And then here at the Comic Strip Live, in the time I've been there, I mean, she's got Nori Davis, who's opening for Tracy Morgan, you know, she's opened the door for all these other people. She can help you more than I can help you, you know.
Christy Miller opens for Andrew Dice Clay.
Well, there you go. And Christy Miller just did our thing. I had never seen her before, but I saw her. You know, Nikki Paris was one that she totally opened the door for. He must have been 16 back then. And he, you know, he's up there. And, you know, actually 5 years ago, I made a movie about Gladys called The Comedy Godmother. And I really, you know, I wanted it to be a TV show that A&E or someone would buy, or Comedy Central. I tried to sell it, but it's on YouTube. It's called The Comedy Godmother. And I had an algorithm that there would be 3 comedians per show, a 30-minute episode, and Gladys would like critique you. But in essence, Gladys is a little Jewish woman that's telling you to brush your teeth and comb your hair. So, but I did it. I shot it. We shot it. We edited it. I put it on YouTube, and it's been living there. And I think it has like 130 hits. You know, but it's just been living there for 5 years. I don't really push it, but I'm glad I made it. Like I had to make it, you know. So, but if you ever get a chance, you should. I had just seen Angels in America, and I had dreamt about Gladys. And in Angels in America, there's this scene where the guy's like in his bed dying of AIDS, and he looks up and he sees the angel, which is his buddy, the doctor. I can't remember the person, but she has these big wings. So I bought some wings on Amazon. I got my friend's loft, and I put Gladys in the window with wings on. So just to see that image of Gladys as the comedy godmother, it's worth it. But in hindsight, you know, Gladys was late, you know, all the things that come with Gladys. And so it's funny, I go, in hindsight, I should have made myself the comedy goddaughter and just had her be a cameo, and then the TV show could perpetuate. So
she just shows up every once in a while.
Yeah. No, I love Gladys. I've been very close. I mean, of the constants of the pandemic, it's been Gladys. She's alone in her apartment. And so myself and Jean, and just by having the show, I mean, she's had a show for 30 years every week, and we couldn't let that end. You know, kind of like, you know, what is it? Everybody's making sourdough bread. So we had the starter, and we couldn't let that starter end.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you guys are keeping the legend going, you know, and keeping this alive.
Yeah. It's important. Comedy is important, you know?
Yeah. I can turn on Zoom and I don't have to take the train across the country to see you guys no more.
Yeah. No, and what's really funny is I did a job in London in January, and the chicks from London were like, you got to do a Zoom call. You got to do a Zoom call. And myself and my friend, the director, were like, we don't want to look at you guys. We don't want to do a Zoom call. We'll just call in. And now, you know, after the whole world kind of disjointed, we're on Zoom all the time. And I was emailing them. I was like, now everybody does the Zoom call.
Yes, it's so great.
It is
great. There's a lot of really good coming out of the pandemic, you know.
I think more good than bad. The bad thing is the death toll, but I don't want to think about that, you know.
No, me neither. Talk to me about your podcast and your show. I want to know the premise behind your podcast and the premise behind your show.
Well, the podcast, in the beginning of the podcast, it's my friend Dana's original podcast called False Positive. But then because podcast became positive, we called it False Positive. But it's False Positive, which would be like, you know, a failed AIDS test or a pregnancy test. And we started out at this place called Little Water Radio, which was a free radio station down at the seaport where Dana lived. And he started it with this other guy, and then they quit. And I was originally a call-in character named Gay Trivia. And I would call into their radio show and ask 5 trivia questions, you know, making fun of my name, Gay. And they were 2 gay gentlemen. So we made fun of it, made light of it. And then I stuck around. And then, you know, so we've had this show. We had it on the radio station for like 2 or 3 years. And now when the radio station closed, we went to Adam Hineker and the Comic Strip Live. Shout out to Adam and the Comic Strip Live. And we do our show from the booth there every Monday. And it's really just, you know, it's just a hotbed of political news. Like we have Dan Lobel and Dana Discordia are the other hosts with me, and they're very politicized. I'm kind of like the middle of the road comedy one, more or less. They think I'm a Republican from Florida. I am not. I am a card carrying Democrat. But it's funny, like Dana is hilarious. He was actually an actor, and then he found himself to be a film producer later in life. And Dan is very insightful and funny, and you know, knows a lot about politics. And then we have guest hosts come in, and we have people come and talk. And it's like, it's a political satiric one, but don't listen to it with kids because we talk about horrible things.
Okay, good.
Yep. And then from this, we have this thing called What's My Line? Dana, again, he's fascinated with What's My Line? Did you ever watch What's My Line when you were growing up or in the old days?
Absolutely. Dorothy Kilgallen, Bennett Cerf or whatever. Yeah.
Oh my God, he'll love you because you said their names. He's gonna love you. I'm the Dorothy Kilgallen of this one. I'm not the Arlene Francis. But Dana loves it. And Bennett Cerf is from like Chappaqua or Katona, someplace upstate. Like Dana knows everything about all their lives and everything. And he's fascinated with the game. And the game is actually quite hard. And now we've done it. Like we went, you know, I think we're going through everybody's family members, but we've had we just did our 5th
froze up
show.
Just a second here. Wow. Oh my gosh. So it's exactly like that game show?
It's exactly like that game show, except we don't give anyone any money. But they have, in the beginning, like we're on our 5th show. The first 2 shows, we never guessed the people's line because you get 10 questions, yes or no. And it's hard to figure it out. And Dana gave us hard things. He gave us like a stand-in, which was an actor, but we didn't get it because we didn't ask questions. But then on the 3rd show, he gave us like Doctor, Lawyer, Indian Chief. So when they were easy like that, we were able to get them. But he gave us, you know, a person that declutters your house. How can you ask a question to figure out how like they're a declutterer? It's like, oh, we're never going to get that. But now we've gotten much better at the game, and we're on our 5th episode.
Wonderful.
And what we wanted to do was we were going to take it to like a cabaret club and do it live and have like comedians and cabaret people be in it or be the people that we showcase. But that never realized itself. And then when Zoom came about, and we always played What's My Line in the podcast, that was always like one of our podcast games. Like Jimmy Fallon has games. Dana likes that. So we have these games. So it just grew in, and people are really watching it. I mean, you know, I make jokes like Comedy Godmother has like 78 hits. The stuff we've been putting out during the pandemic has 171 hits and 200 hits. The people are loving it.
Yeah, they're there to watch now. It's awesome. It's really helping a lot. So you and I, we were talking before we went live, and we were going to discuss the wonderful Ziggy Susser, his career taking off, and Sinbad. So let's talk about those before we.
Well, I love that you got Sinbad. What a catch. I mean, growing up in the 80s, he lost a little weight, Sinbad. I hope he's all right. No, I'm just kidding. All of a sudden, he looked like a white Jewish guy on the screen. No, I'm kidding. You did all this stuff, Linda. No, Sinbad was great. Very insightful. A guy, you know, withstood the test of time. You know, it's not easy to make money at this. And Ziggy, I remember Ziggy, he's probably been doing this 2 years. I think I must have seen him in the very beginning. And Ziggy has become his timing, he's commanding the audience. He's thinking of funny things. He's not, I mean, you know, we all are taught to say the same thing over and over again. And I hate that because I think we should try to be fresh. I think you should have jokes that are funny, but don't always do those jokes. Try to do one thing extra. Try to push yourself to be extra. And I really think Ziggy's doing that. I mean, there's another comedian called, Celeste. We all know Celeste from The Room. And like, I watched Celeste turn the corner. Now I think I've watched Ziggy turn the corner. Like, you can tell when the people turn the corner. I watched Nikki Paris turn the corner. It's when all of a sudden they stand on stage and you know they're not thinking about anything they wrote. They're totally in the moment. So, and I think Ziggy has arrived in the moment.
And that's so exciting to see
Yeah.
that for him.
Yep.
I
And I know
couldn't.
you love his bird. I don't know. I have mixed views about the bird.
I want when the bird passes away, I want to taxidermy the bird and then bring back Groucho, say the magic word, and the bird drops.
That's funny.
Remember
You're back.
Groucho?
I remember Groucho. I was just watching Horse Feathers last night. It was on TMC
Oh my gosh.
or
Do you remember the
TCM.
bird? Do you remember the bird would drop with the sign in the bird's mouth
Yep.
if you said the magic word?
Yep.
I want Ziggy's bird to do that after the bird, passes away.
It's funny. Your back paint color, your back wall, it's like the same color as Ziggy's bird.
How to make a bird disappear.
Yeah. There you go.
So then, when we go through trials, narcissists, sociopaths, really mean people don't come out any better. Maybe worse, but you're a great person. And I like to ask one question when I remember to ask it. How has this bull crap we're going through made you better as a human, a wife, a host? What do you see coming out of this for you?
For me, I think it's made me better. It's made me more patient, which is something I was quite impatient, and I get impatient. Like I start off cool like everybody else, but then I'll start to get impatient, or I'll let my mind wander to other things. And here, there's nothingness. There's no. We don't have to run to the next appointment. I haven't really been napping, but I've kind of been enjoying the pause because I haven't been worrying. But I know that hopefully work will pick up. There's worries all around it, but I haven't let myself become that anxious. I've been trying to be like patient and in the moment. And it made me love my sweetie more. It made me love Dean more because we would do things together. Like we really did this together. And then I have a lot of friends that live alone in one bedrooms. And many people were like, well, at least you have Dean to go through it with you. And I was like, but I'll walk by. You can see me from 6 feet. We can Zoom, but I do understand that. And I am very happy that I had someone else to go through it with,
Yeah.
It was tough. It was tough standing in line at that Trader Joe's for 45 minutes. At least we had each other.
We don't know what suffering is, but we just got a dose of it here in the last few months.
Yeah.
And
no, we know.
Like
our
you
world's
mentioned,
too
you're in New
intimate.
York, where all the suffering has been. It's been the mega center for it.
No, it's true. It's bad, and then it went from such suffering and such death, and all of us doing the precautions and wearing the masks. I mean, it's like it's 100 degrees here today, and we're wearing the mask and being all sweaty, and you have to do it. And then all of a sudden, in a night, the powder keg ignited. The George Floyd incident happened, and all But it won't stop happening. So I get it, and I want to grab this moment and make it stick. I want to make it stick. I don't know. I love the police, but I don't hang out with them. I don't talk to them. I live in fear of them. I don't know. That's what living in New York has taught us. So
yes, like all it does, it teaches. We were taught in the 50s to respect and never talk back to the police, and Sinbad was saying that maybe us older people my age need to just die off for racism to have a fresh start, because we just come from.
It's
Go
true.
ahead.
It's true. My nieces and nephew don't see color. They don't see color like we see color, and I know that, I have a brother and a sister, and I think that some of the kids that grew up in the South are totally tinged with racism. And I think some of the kids that grew up in California in the North are much less tinged. But I think it's there. I really identify, or I agree with what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said. Racism, it's everywhere. It's the dust in the air, and you don't see it till you put a light on it. And there it is. It's pervasive. It's everywhere,
Yeah. It's so sad to see it. And, people of color have seen it much clearer for so long, and we act so shocked when we see it. But at least people are out there filming it now.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what kind of things do you want to say to everybody before you head out?
I want to say smoke pot, make love, live long, have fun, comb your hair, and love everybody. Try to be nice to everybody. I totally believe in the golden rule. Do unto others, then split. No. That's the hippies rule, though. I believe in the golden rule. Do unto others as you would want to have done unto yourself. That's the rule by which I live by. You know, if you're in a bad mood and you say fuck you to the first person you see on the street, chances are somebody's going to say fuck you back, because that's, you know, you gave out that energy, you're going to give it back. So do unto others as you would want to have done unto you. And if you're in a bad mood, stay inside till you feel better.
I love you to pieces. I'll see you on Wednesday at the
Cool.
Gladys Simon virtual comedy show.
Thank you, Linda.
5 p.m. Wednesdays. It's on Gaye Lirot's page on Facebook, and get on over to her podcast and her game show.
And can't wait to see you tell jokes again, Linda.
Thank you so much. I don't know. I don't want to bother you guys too often to ask for a spot, because you got a lot of people there that are right there. So I just do it every once in a while. It's better that way for me.
Come back. Gladys loves you. All right.
Thank you. Bye, Gaye. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody's